Let me start with this question. When a team called you about Karlsson, and I'm sure you got many, many calls, was there always a caveat that they wanted the permission to talk to him about a contract extension?
Well, some teams did, and other teams, they were ready to acquire him without and trying to sell their team after they acquired the player. There was not ever it varied from team to team. We only gave permission to teams when we felt we were really close to a deal.
Do you, in advance, this is one of the questions I asked while we were getting you back on the air, do you in advance do a 1A, 1B kind of deal? If a team asks for permission to talk to him about a contract extension, do you agree then that if they are successful, the package is worth this, and if they aren't successful, the package is worth something else? Is that done in advance?
Without a doubt.
It is, huh?
Yes, it is, Bob.
And it's dramatically different, isn't it?
It varies on the pieces. It always varies on the return, the quality of the return, as far as conditions. It varied from team to team. When discussing a player of Erik Karlsson's caliber, you're always going to make sure that your organization is protected.
How far back do the discussions go with San Jose?
We talked at the trade deadline. We had discussions early July, and I would have to say the discussions really picked up over the course of the last 2 weeks.
Were you close with them or anyone else at the deadline?
I'm going to be careful how I answer that, just because we don't want to throw anyone else under the bus. I think we had serious discussion at the trade deadline. To say we were close might be pushing it a bit.
Well, let's say, I may be putting you in a spot here, but why was a deal not consummated at the deadline, and I guess the vice versa? Why was it consummated now?
Yeah, I think that's a very fair question. The reason the deal was consummated now is that we felt we finally got the proper return for Erik Karlsson, contrary to at times where other teams previously inquired with us.
So obviously you have training camp coming up. That's an arbitrary deadline in theory, because you could have gone to camp with Erik Karlsson.
Exactly, we could have gone to camp with Erik Karlsson. We weren't just doing this deal today because he was going to get on the ice tomorrow. For us, it didn't matter. What mattered the most is in our rebuild, getting the pieces we needed to move forward to have success. That was the key component.
I'm always intrigued by the genesis of a deal and the structure of it. I know you can't, you don't have a number in front of you, but how many hours would you say you put into consummating the San Jose portion of the deal? Not everybody you talk to, but Pierre, but just this deal. Is this an hour? Is it 5 hours? Is it 50 hours?
It's closer to the last part, 50.
Yeah.
With Doug Wilson, you know that the conversation can go on, the return calls, the follow-up conversations, I want to add this piece, want to omit this, how about this idea? Doug can be very creative, and I think we were very creative in building this deal together.
And were there other teams still in the mix this week, Pierre?
Yes, without a doubt. There were other teams in the mix this week.
So in a generic sense, you feel you're getting close to an agreement with San Jose. At some point, you must feel like, okay, we're pretty close here. We may have it, we may not have it, but we're pretty close. Do you then open the door to everybody else? Do you then get proactive and call other teams that have made offers and say, look, we think we've got something here. Are you prepared to up the ante a little bit? I'm wondering, how do you play this? Is it like a poker game?
Part in poker game, part in are you or are you not? Here's what it'll cost. If you want to be in, this is the price you have to pay. And from then, when we work at these type of deals, you have to get the best return for the organization. There could have been, I'm not going to say the number of GMs today, but I think there were a few that disappointed that didn't get the player. But, those general managers didn't step up to the level that San Jose stepped up to.
Is Josh Norris the best prospect out of this bunch? Most people tell me they think he is.
I don't want to be too political, but we think both the prospects are very good prospects. Both prospects are going to be key elements for the Ottawa Senators to win in our rebuild in the future. What Josh Norris brings is someone who has an on-ice presence, who's a three-zone player, who skates well the way the game is going, who's got a presence about himself on the ice, the way he carries himself, that we know he's pretty close to the NHL. And of all the four people I talked to today, I think he was the most excited. And we feel in Rudolph Balcers that we've got someone who's a dynamic, younger player, scored, was San Jose's best player in their minor league team this year. And we all know that every player needs time in the American League. And we feel that this player is going to be able to produce at the NHL level as part of our rebuild.
Now, do you think he's ready, potentially this year?
I think we all think, including our pro scouts, that he might need a bit more time in the American League, but we know as soon as next year that we project him to be an NHL regular.
Now, Pierre,
we'll let Rudolph decide that.
I think you said today in the press conference, you said that Erik Karlsson never asked for a trade, right? Is that correct, or demanded a trade?
No, let's be correct on that. Erik Karlsson never asked for a trade.
So what is the etiquette though? If you're about to deal away a guy who's a player of Erik, maybe any player, but certainly a player of Erik Karlsson's stature, are you in communication with him through this process? Does he know, kind of when things are getting close?
Yes, I think through him and his agents, I think we own the courtesy and the respect to let him know when things are getting closer on a possible trade. They're not going to dictate to us where a player would go unless he's got some type of trade clause, and Erik has 10 teams that he could refuse to go to, and we knew that. But at the same time, you always got to show the player respect, and we believe so right from the top to the bottom here in Ottawa. We try to show our players as much respect as we can.
If this had not worked out, if you didn't get I'm assuming you got what you wanted. Did you? Are you happy with what you got?
Without a doubt.
Okay.
Very happy with the return, because 6 pieces that could possibly be 8 pieces for a player that could walk away at the end of the year for nothing. I think we feel for this organization that it's a positive step forward after a disaster of a season of finishing 30th place last year. We're definitely happy with this return.
What if this return had not been on the table? You know, and I know, and Steven knows that the clock ticking, the last thing you want is for Karlsson to walk away. And you are already committed to believing that he probably was going to go. It was 99% he was going to go. And there is the at least remote possibility, Pierre, that he would go and you would get nothing out of it. And that wouldn't have been good for you. It wouldn't have been good for your owner. And it sure wouldn't have been good for the city of Ottawa, who would have gone even more postal than they've been going lately. Did you feel the pressure to get this thing done?
Not at all. Did not feel the pressure at all. I think when you sign up for one of these 31 positions in the NHL, you got to be ready for every scenario. And when it comes to trading Erik Karlsson, we knew that at the end of the year he could walk away for nothing. We're in a rebuild. There could have been an injury during the year where his season could have been done. We didn't feel any pressure, but we felt when a team like San Jose stepped up, gave us exactly what we wanted as far as quantity and quality, as far as pieces of return, this was the best move for our organization to move forward for a positive and successful rebuild.
Did Karlsson's injury of last year and concerns about his health, was that raised during the conversations you had with various teams? Did it mitigate what you could get?
No, not at all. Well, we were always very open with every single team that asked about his injuries, that we would show him every medical record we had. They could speak with any surgeon or the surgeon that operated on Erik or any injuries he suffered. We were never concerned about that, and nor were any of the teams.
So you believe he
talked to us.
He is and will be healthy. At least he will not have any residual effect of the injury. That's your belief?
I can't answer that. I think general manager is the extent of my is the extent of my knowledge. Medical doctor is not.
Yeah. Well, I'm just wondering. There isn't a substantial concern that the impact that we saw when he first came back, where he wasn't quite 100%, and that's to be expected. You don't project that to be a long-term situation. You don't know, but you don't project that.
No, we do not.
Okay.
I think that might be a better question for Doug Wilson.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, and we're hopefully going to chat with him at some point in time. Well, it was a dramatic day. Can you share with us the kind of reaction you're getting? Are you getting any positive response from the Ottawa fans, or are you resigned to the fact that they lost the best player in the franchise and they're not going to be particularly enamored with this?
No, I think we, obviously, when anyone makes a deal, people are always going to look at the best player in the deal, and the actual best player in the deal right now is Erik Karlsson. So I understand our fans' concerns, but when you look at what the return we were able to get with the possibility of losing Erik Karlsson for nothing, and us being in a situation where I'm not sure we're one of the favorites to win the Stanley Cup this year, that we had to do this. We felt we needed to do this. We planned to do this, and this was the right time to do it.
I'm sorry, one more just came into my mind. Did your position on what you wanted, Pierre, change at all from midseason or trade deadline last year to where you are now? In other words, I know that there was sort of a commitment to a rebuild, but I can't recall exactly when, you guys basically acknowledged, yeah, we're going to have to tear this thing down. And I'm wondering, and I guess what I'm wondering is, did anybody offer you a proven NHL player that maybe enticed you rather than a bunch of young kids who you could build with in the future?
No, obviously there was multiple scenarios put on the table, but we felt that this was the best course of action for us because from last February, we knew we were in a rebuild direction.
Yeah.
And us getting possible players that could become UFAs at the end of this year, whether they were better, wouldn't really be fruitful or productive for us to have a successful rebuild.
Listen, we thank you very much for taking time for us today. This is always a hectic day, and we know that time is your enemy, and we're most appreciative of what you've given us and your frankness in the conversation. Deals like this, Brent and I think both agree. When this kind of trade happens, it's really impossible to evaluate on the spot, yet everybody tries to, us included. Mm-hmm. So time will tell whether this was a good deal for the Ottawa Senators or not, and nothing else.
We'll check back in a couple of years.
We'll call you in a couple of years.
Yes, I'd love to look back at this in a few years.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Pierre, for your time. We appreciate it.
Thanks again for having me on, guys.